When a financial crash hits, the immediate reality is panic. Trillions of dollars seem to evaporate from the global economy overnight. But this raises a practical question. When markets collapse and portfolios drain, where exactly does all that value go? The truth is, money doesn't vanish into thin air during an economic downturn. It changes hands. While everyday workers lose their jobs and local businesses board up their windows, a specific group of elite investors quietly watches their net worth hit record highs. This divergence is not an accident. It is the natural result of a highly predictable, mechanical financial system. A recession is essentially a scheduled transfer of assets. It moves wealth directly from the impatient and panicked straight into the hands of the prepared. The first gear powering this machine is human psychology. Financial markets run on math, but they are driven by emotion. Behavioral economists call this loss aversion. Humans fear losing money more than they enjoy making it. When a crisis arrives, that fear takes over, triggering massive sell-offs exactly when asset prices are at their lowest. On the other side of those trades is the professional investor. Long before a crisis even appears in the headlines, these individuals intentionally build up massive reserves of cash. When the market liquidates, they deploy cash to buy up high-quality businesses and prime real estate at deep discounts. While average workers focus entirely on basic survival, the wealthy focus on generational accumulation. They acquire valuable assets for a fraction of their actual value. The initial phase of this transfer runs almost entirely on the middle class's emotional fear, feeding the elite's analytical patience. But individual investors are only part of the equation. This process is accelerated by an enormous institutional force, the central bank. When credit markets freeze, central banks deploy a tool called quantitative easing, or QE. They inject emergency liquidity into the economy to keep the financial system from collapsing. They electronically create reserves to purchase government bonds, pushing a tidal wave of cash into the banking sector. This flows outward into stocks, technology, and real estate. The rescue has a major side effect. The liquidity rapidly inflates those specific financial assets. Remember the cash-rich buyers who just purchased those assets at rock-bottom prices? The central bank's rescue mission effectively supercharges their newly acquired portfolios, sending their net worth skyrocketing. We saw this play out in 2020. As physical economies shut down across the globe, central banks countered with massive liquidity injections. This direct intervention created the fastest wealth expansion for technology assets on record. The central bank's goal is to save the broad economy. But because their primary mechanism inflates asset prices, the math guarantees those who already own assets recover the fastest and profit the most. This is a K-shaped recovery. The upward line represents the rapid trajectory of financial assets, while the downward line tracks everyday wages. Households relying on a paycheck take years to recover. Because assets rebound first, the wealth gap widens significantly after every major crash. Long after the stock market hits new all-time highs, the lingering reality for the working class often involves depleted savings and ongoing financial uncertainty. You cannot change the mechanics of this system, but you can change how you operate within it before the next crisis arrives. The most successful investors don't mourn daily market losses. They abandon the emotional mindset entirely. Instead, they look at the board analytically, asking one simple question: which high-quality assets are temporarily on sale? Generational wealth is rarely built during the optimism of an economic boom. It is quietly, methodically assembled during periods of maximum systemic fear.